mindset wise, I definitely remember being very challenged by my circumstances, what was occurring. I was living in Los Angeles. And so my perception was it was Los Angeles, right? I thought that if I moved, I would be in a different environment with different people and I wouldn't have to have the pain and all the things that were going on that I couldn't accomplish or achieve. I just assumed it was Los Angeles' fault. Mm-hmm. And so when I left, I was like, it's not Los Angeles' fault. Like, it is definitely internal.
Welcome to Conversations That Grow, the show where we explore how the right conversations can shape our business, leadership, and even how we see the world. I'm Pepin, and today I'm speaking to Pepin. Carly is an international speaker and consultant who helps entrepreneurs and leaders grow their businesses by getting to the root of what really drives them. She's all about blending human behavior with smart strategy because real growth isn't just about systems and goals. It's also about shifting the stories we tell ourselves. Carly, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. Carly, to kick things off, what's a conversation you had that changed the way you think about leadership or business?
Yeah, so a big conversation about leadership was just understanding that as a leader, we're going to be both sides, right? Like often in the leadership world, it's portrayed that, you know, they're good people, they're only doing good things, that's it. But the reality is you are going to challenge the crap out of people. There's going to be a significant quantity of individuals that dislike you, despise you, hate you to the same degree as they love you. And it doesn't really matter what you do, you can't make everyone happy. Yeah. So that was like a really beautiful example and something that really, really helped me to understand what true leadership was. You know, you're focused on the vision, you're focused on the mission, and that's how you're going to move forward. And some people are going to love you, some people are going to hate you.
Yeah. So did that come out of a conversation you had?
Yeah, lots of different conversations. I think that also takes a minute to stick in your brain.
Yeah. Carly, last time we spoke, when we had our pre-call, you shared about your mindset and how that changed. I'd love for you to tell our listeners about that transformation, the story behind that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So mindset wise, I definitely remember being very challenged by my circumstances, what was occurring. And it was when I had first kind of been trying to figure out what I wanted to do in life, what were my next steps. I was living in Los Angeles. And so my perception was it was Los Angeles, right? So I was blaming the outside and the people and all this fun stuff. So I moved to Australia because it seemed like a good idea. And I got there and I was miserable because everything that I thought was causing the pain on the outside was gone. And that's when I really realized that things were coming from the inside. And it's when I first started to try to find solutions that were really geared towards helping me shift what was going on inside, helping me to shift my perceptions, help me to kind of get over the different things that I was going through so that I can actually enjoy life, you know, no matter where I was. And it was really helpful. You know, I wound up moving back to LA after a year, and now it's my favorite place in the world. Absolutely.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
so you moved
probably the place I'll be forever.
You said you moved to Australia to kind of escape. What was it that was going on?
I thought that if I moved, I would be in a different environment with different people and I wouldn't have to like have the pain and all the things that were going on that I couldn't accomplish or achieve. I just assumed it was Los Angeles' fault. And so when I left, I was like, it is not Los Angeles' fault. Like, it is definitely internal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that self-awareness is great, no matter when it happens or where it happens. But I'd love to know, like, so what did you do once you figured out that actually I'm carrying it? It's not to do with the people or the space that I'm in. How did you start working through that?
Yeah, I actually found a coach. You know, it wasn't something that I sought out. It was pretty accidental in a sense, but, you know, one could say it was just perfect divine timing there, where my car stalled at the yoga studio I was going to, and I just looked up at the bulletin board and all the things that I had been going through, like they had mentioned, but at the end of it, she said, and I got to the other side. And it was the first time where someone had ever said that they didn't have to deal with like all the day to day anymore. I'd been to so many therapists and psychiatrists and groups and stuff that just said, you know, you just have to deal with this stuff. It's not something that ever goes away. And that was the first time that someone said, like, I don't have to deal with it anymore. And it just felt like she really understood what it felt like on the other side. And so I hired her, and it was crazy. And I was like, oh, this is like a different way. And I was starting to actually overcome the things that I thought I was going to have to deal with for the rest of my life. And I realized I did not have to. Like, that's not something that I had to do. And so, you know, after the first few months of working with her, I really wanted to sign up and start coaching myself, because, you know, when you get results like that quickly after being told for a lifetime you're just stuck with this crap, you're like, I want it, I'll do it. Yeah. Tell me more.
Sounds like a very freeing conversation with that coach.
Definitely.
It was that experience that pushed you into going into coaching. Is that what you said?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it worked so well. I also started to understand, you know, when you help others, I mean, Zig Ziglar says it, you know, you help others get what they want, you get what you want. And it was like, okay, I could see how she was, you know, growing and evolving just even through the conversation she was having with me. We started to do some groups with other people, and you could see how much it like helped her as well. And it was interesting. And I was like, I definitely want to do this. Like, this is something that's inspiring. Would
you be able to tell us some of those inner conversations that you had that started to help you move from a place of perhaps confusion to a place of feeling more clear about life and things?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of the confusion too, and, you know, I guess this happens to everyone. People, I think, definitely understand it to a greater degree now that we have social media, is all the comparisons, right? So also when I was in LA, I'm just comparing myself to everyone and the life I think I should have or supposed to have, how I'm supposed to be, how I'm supposed to act, you know, what's the right way to do things, what's the wrong way to do things. And so I'm trying to follow almost these unspoken and sometimes spoken rules and regulations from society, and especially the societies we live in are the ones we're most influenced by. Yeah. And so it was just a really interesting dynamic. Like, the thing that was the most freeing was to become authentic, you know, like outside of what society believed you should be or believed that you shouldn't be. It was like, well, what really works for you? And it was a really like her questions, her conversations, her work that she helped me get through was like, how do I actually like connect more with who I am, and how do I integrate that on a day-to-day basis? And that changes your life. Like, it genuinely changes your life. It's a huge transformation. So it's helpful too. I think that was one of the gifts of being in Australia, is just disconnecting from the culture so completely and engrossing yourself in other cultures, realizing like, this culture is great and that culture is great. This culture has things that challenge me and that culture has things that challenge me. Which one's better? Which one's worse? Neither. They're just different. And you realize how like differences are actually quite beautiful and quite inspiring, right? So it was really helpful to be in a different environment as that different individual and just kind of work through all that stuff and create a different life out there. And it really was transformative, really transformative. So authenticity, amazingly enough, is truly a key. I know we kind of use it on a day-to-day basis and people talk about it a lot, but when you really implement it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like, it's life-changing. It's like, whoa. Like, you feel comfortable in your own skin again. You feel comfortable being who you are. You don't feel like you need to be proud or puffed up all the time. You don't feel ashamed of who you are, and you don't feel like you have to hide. Like, it's very freeing. Like, it's very freeing to have that true self-love and gratitude for yourself and your experiences, whether you've caused pleasure or pain. So that was really, when we say conversations, those were really inspiring conversations and really helpful.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. I can completely understand what you're saying. Like, it resonates with me on several levels. I think there's also this, because you're in an environment that's not your own anymore and things aren't familiar, you kind of start from scratch and you kind of get to know yourself again, because in a familiar setting, you just do things because they come easily. It's almost like you go into auto mode. But when you're in a new setting, you kind of have to think through things a little bit more and you come to a greater understanding. But I think it's that growth that happens, that stretching that happens. It can also be quite painful.
Absolutely can be incredibly painful. And it's interesting because I was just reflecting on a recent situation that I had even with myself where I had transitioned from going from business to consumer to business to business. And on the back end of that, there's a lot more than just switching and saying I'm going to work with the business. There's a lot of different
Mm,
procedures, a lot of different policies, different marketing, everything changes. And so it was a huge change. And I didn't realize like how uncomfortable it is to create changes like that that are on the
mm,
large scale until I had gotten back into it, you know?
mm,
And it was fascinating because even in the moment, you're like, man, I'm so uncomfortable. Like there are days that I'm doing well. There are days that I like had tears. There are days that I was like, can I do this? There are days that I got this, you know? And then in the transition, I just remember thinking, it's been a really long time since I've challenged myself to this degree. And I thought, and it's really stretching me and it's really helping me to grow. I was like, it's
mm,
hard, it's challenging, it's like confusing at times, but I was like, man, I don't do this enough because I had gotten
mm,
so comfortable and so used to what had occurred before because things were just working. Things were working really
mm.
well. The business was flowing really well. And this was a conscious choice I made just to do something I wanted to do. Right. So it's really interesting. And it was something that I thought to myself, you know, like I'll let the dust settle a little bit. And I was like, how do I actually push myself again, you know, without having it to be these big extreme things on a regular basis? It's like, how do I continue to push myself and make myself uncomfortable? Like, what are other
Mm,
things that I can do in my life? Because to the
mm.
degree that, like you said, it's really hard, it also just gives us like the most growth, like the most
Yeah,
growth. Hmm.
yeah, absolutely it does. Yeah, I love what you're saying. I think it's applicable in so many, well, just about every aspect of life. You're talking about business, but personally too, it's such an important part. One, to be self-aware, but that often comes with pushing yourself to be uncomfortable, as you said, and allowing that growth to happen. That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's inspiring. And it's cool too, because it's like we can ask ourselves that question is what do we really love? What's important to us?
Yeah.
Because we don't have to stretch in areas that we don't care about. We probably won't stick to it,
Hmm.
genuinely. But
Yeah.
if we're really stretching and we want to grow in something that's important to us, you'll push really hard. And no matter
Yeah.
how hard it is, you'll like find a way to get to the other side. So it's also a
Mm.
really great opportunity for self-reflection. It's like, what is really important to me? And what have I
Yeah.
been wanting to do or talking about or thinking about like that I actually could just get started, even if it's hard?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And I think there's another side to it too. Like sometimes life just happens and you'll find yourself in a situation that's not ideal, but you allow yourself to be uncomfortable and allow it to shape you, like through that growth. I think that's another really cool way
Mhm.
for it to happen. Yeah, we were talking before about that internal transformation that happens that comes before the growth that we see externally. And so you mentioned before you decided to end up being a coach yourself because it was such a positive experience and that you saw the good that it can do and bring out. And it sounds like there was a moment in time when you decided this is what I want to do. So tell me a little bit more about that story.
Yeah, that was a fun one. I do remember sitting in front of her and having the realization that like, whoa, like when she's helping me, I'm helping her. And I asked her that question. I was like, when I am doing this stuff, she's like, are you actually working on yourself like simultaneously? She's like, kind of, yeah. And she explained it to me because we
Mm,
attract individuals that were able to help to get to the other side. And
mm,
we may have fully processed something, but sometimes we haven't. And so just
yeah.
sitting down with someone and helping them get to the other side actually processes your own stuff as well. And the cool thing is, you know, I got to see this in the coaching dynamic, but if you just see this in your day-to-day life, you'll
Mm,
notice it. You'll notice you'll sit down with friends, family members, your kids, right? And you'll actually sit colleagues and you'll help them through something that you may not have full awareness of yet, but you'll feel better on the conversation. You feel better because it's nice to be of service to someone, but simultaneously, by you being objective in that moment, you are able to be more objective about your own life too, right?
mm,
So for me, it's just a win-win scenario. And it was like, how can I get the best tools on the planet from the best people to get people the best results while
yeah.
simultaneously like feeling really fulfilled and inspired, you know?
Yeah,
That was,
absolutely.
yeah, that was an awesome
Mm,
realization when I saw that. And yeah, I absolutely love it. And it's just cool. It's cool to see it's cool to see people grow. And when I realized I wanted to do more of the business to business, it's because I could see how business is a vehicle for impact and vision and purpose, right? Like I could
Yeah.
see that if that's something that's important to you, that your business is 100% a vehicle. And sometimes entrepreneurs, business owners, founders, they don't even recognize it. Like they haven't even seen it yet. But
Mm,
that business everyone starts, they don't just do it for the sake of doing it. There's some internal driver behind it, and
mm,
it's usually quite an inspiring one. So it's really
mm,
fun when we can like pull that out and that becomes more of the vision of the company, the vision of that individual. I had one client who worked in like the industrial industry. And it was interesting because we broke down like what actually they were doing it for, and it had nothing to do with the product or service. It had to do
mm,
with the country that they were building it in. They really wanted to create an opportunity for individuals in a third world country to have first world opportunities. And
mm,
to do that, it was being able to provide the finances and the environment to help them thrive, even though they're
mm,
still living in a third world country. And so everyone has that inside them who starts a business. And the more I started to see it, the more I was like, well, of course they want to help these people grow their companies. I mean, look at what
mm,
they're infused it with. And when they become
mm,
more aware of it, they become more inspired and want it to make a greater impact than they even ever had known before. So,
mm,
yeah, that's when I knew it was time to focus on not just the person, but the business, yeah,
mm.
as well.
So in
Hmm.
that, in with your clients that you work with in that journey, in that time, whereabouts do you think that usually happens when that awareness comes for them?
It depends on the person, but it doesn't actually take as long as
Mm,
people think, you know? It's usually in like 3 to 4 sessions they start to get a feel for it. And after about like a dozen sessions, we can usually get it solidified,
mm,
right? Where it's like you got the feel for it, but now you're gonna walk away and I know it's like cemented in there. There's some like concrete cement dynamic.
mm,
It's not going anywhere for a while. You got the seed, it's planted. And then
mm,
it just depends on how far people want to go because it's something that you can expand on forever, right? It's just ever-grading degree of evolving who you are, what your vision is, what it looks like today, what it's going to be tomorrow, and expanding on that to a greater to greater degree. So the people I find who are most dedicated to understanding that are the ones who want to do work most frequently, most often, and very consistently, right? And
mm,
again, not a good or bad thing. Everyone just has different values, different priorities, and if you don't want to do that, it's totally okay.
mm.
There's the people who do, they just get the most data from it, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, if you
yeah,
like the data, invest the time. If you don't care, it's totally cool. Yeah.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I could be totally wrong here, but when you're having when you're having coaching sessions, is there an element of personal roadblocks that would stop them from scaling their business?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm,
Yeah, so it again depends on the individual. There's one person that I was working with that just was really fearful of scaling their business again because they had a significant quantity of money stolen from them by their previous
mm,
business partner. And the business partner was also a longtime friend. So there was a
mm,
lot of basically like a big wound. There's a big
mm,
wound. There's a personal trauma around that, and there's something they don't want to go through again. So to get to the other side, we actually had to work on that dynamic. I had another person who had so much guilt and shame for something that they had done when they were a child, and because that was unprocessed, they just couldn't get past a certain point. And so when we went through to clear the trauma, clear the guilt and shame, all of a sudden they're able to move past that set point and they're starting to grow, 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 right?
mm,
So there's definitely that dynamic where we can really hold ourselves back. I had another one, funny enough. He just loves his wife so much. And the wife was frustrated because, like, basically, the more that he was growing the business, the more that he was spending time away from the wife. So we had to do
mm,
some work on that because he just didn't want to grow the business because he didn't want to take up time. So we
mm.
did a ton of personal development on that as well to give him permission to move forward. But the reason why I love including, and this is why it just kind of got cemented in more and more, all the business strategy, right?
Yeah,
Like the guy with the wife, right? Like we're
yeah,
gonna work on your emotional charges. We're gonna help her as well. I got to work with her too, which was great, and help her as well with the things that she was experiencing. But then we're also putting strategies into place so he can delegate and build his business and scale it
mm,
properly, that he doesn't have to be as involved as he was before. Like that's
yeah,
part of scaling smart, right? With a guy who got the money stolen, like we had to go in and we had to scale it in a different way. We had to figure out how he was going through the hiring process, right? We had to get rid of some other people that potentially were also red flags, building the teams, also going through the cash flow and making sure there's systems and procedures and all these little different nooks and crannies that doesn't have to happen again, and even the individual who had like the issue when he was a child, the trauma. It's like after we clear that, it's like, yeah, he gets to scale his business, but he's now like coming into new territory. So now that one was a lot of team building, a lot of strategy, a lot of execution, a lot of operational stuff that we put in place too. So you kind of do it hand in hand, right? It's not to expect to, I don't want anyone to have an unrealistic expectation, like I'll just go put in the strategies and everything will be perfect. Like you'll still have the inner stuff, but you can't just do only the inner stuff, not the outer stuff. But if you have the balance, like they really go hand in hand. They really help each other out. Yeah, do both.
Exactly. Yeah. And I really love what you're drawing out, that businesses run on revenue. So you need that side of the business absolutely to work, but equally it's acknowledging the humanity in it as well. And like, it's people that are involved. And so you have to slow down and listen and communicate well and really understand.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, business is all people. Your customers are people, your employees are people, you're a person, everyone you encounter, the public is people. So it's like, who are we connecting with? Why are we connecting with them? And again, that leadership dynamic that I talked to in the beginning, who do we really care about that we want to stay in the limelight? We want them to love us. And it's like, but this is going to make all these people hate us, but these are the people that your business genuinely doesn't care about. Like that's the reality. That's the truth. And so it's funny. It's all about people and strategically drawing in people to love you, but also strategically knowing like you're going to draw in people to dislike you as well, because they're not going to agree with what you do. You can't get the whole world on your side, but if you can really understand the people you're connected with, you can really be of service to them, and you could really be fulfilling to that small group of people, and that's something that's fulfilling to them, and that's important. And then getting all your people to understand like what you're doing, why, and helping them to be inspired in the positions that they're in. And then it changes the culture of the company. It's really cool. And that all happens from the top down. It happens from the top down. Yeah.
Yeah. That leadership that is so vital. Good leadership that is so vital. And I think what I'm hearing you say is that it's not just, because at the beginning you said, some will hate you, some will love you. And it's not just communicating information. It's actually bringing people with you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's bringing those individuals with you. And you see it with brands, right? You see with brands all the time. Like someone's going to prefer Nike and someone's going to prefer Adidas. And though people who feel so strongly about it, they'll be like, I hate Nike or I love Nike. I hate Nike or I love Adidas. And that's not just something that's built randomly. That's built because the person that they're connecting to, Nike is connecting to, is just not you. And the person that Adidas is connected to, that's you. And that's okay. Nothing wrong or right about it. It's just like that's the level of connection that they've gone through to understand who you are and what's important to you. And ironically, like they're asking you questions, they're observing you, they're gathering data to like create things that you personally would love. That's like why sometimes you're talking and you get this product or service, you're like, I feel like this was made for me. It really was made for you. And I think that is, when we talk about conversations, that's the conversations on the grander scale. I think it's one of the coolest things that we can do in business. Again, I know some people like really get triggered by it, but it's like someone's really trying to get to know you, those targeted ads and stuff. I love targeted ads. I feel like they know me. I feel like someone took the time to understand. I feel so seen. I understand what I want. I don't have to go crazy searching anymore. I put it in Google and I'm like, yes, you know where I want to go. Thank you, Google. Like I just keep it on all the time. But that's it, because it's trying to get to know me so well that it reframes things. I'm gonna buy this thing anyway. Of course I want to make it faster. So that's like the cool thing. It's a conversation that they took from one-on-one to like one-to-many. And and that's the cool thing about business too. It's like, we're not just doing one-to-one. Now we're doing one-to-many and people figure it out. Yeah, it's fun.
That's great. Carly, at the beginning, you were talking about how we become almost a reflection of our environment. I can't remember exactly the word you used, so please correct me if I'm wrong. But we become a part of that, and that was one of the reasons you moved from LA to Australia. I'm curious, how do you stop yourself from becoming like that again?
Yeah, so it's more like we actually subordinate to the environment is the word that I'll
Okay.
use. And then we reflect it because we think that's what we should do,
Right.
right? Because we've like put it on a pedestal, we think that's right. We think whatever our way is wrong.
Mm.
And so if we find ourselves mimicking, whether it be the environment or specific people, it's like, wow, we've actually put them on a pedestal. We're assuming that what they do is better than us. We haven't seen or acknowledged our own unique form. And then all of a sudden, it's like we lose sight of ourselves, right?
Mm.
So the best way to really catch this, and I think it's actually hard because I don't think people realize how often we do it.
Mm.
And when I say it, I think they're like, whatever, I said it, right? You don't even notice. But if you catch how many times I say I should do this, I
Mm.
need to do this, I'm supposed to do this, I have to do this, I've got to do this. Every single one of those is not coming from who you really are. You don't actually
Mm.
want to do it. You genuinely don't want to do it. And it's wisdom to go in and ask the question of why, right? Like
Mm.
if I'm working with a business owner or something and they say, I have to do that. I was working with someone and they're like, I have to do this. I have to manage this HR stuff. And you pay me good money. And we're sitting here and I'm listening to the owner of this company that has an HR team
Mm.
try to manage his emotions and work on emotions so he can manage an employee, right? Who's being emotional in the office. And
Mm.
I was like, I'm not going to work with you on this. I was like, you have to means you don't want to.
Mm.
Simultaneously, I was like, why are you not delegating this? And he's like, well, and he's coming up with all these excuses. And I was like, no, I was like, you have a whole team that you pay. Let's get this off your plate, right? So
Mm.
if you're have to on something, supposed to, should, and you don't have to do it, you could take it off your plate. You can delegate it. You can pass it
Mm.
on to someone else who
Mm.
has a job for it and loves doing it. Get it off your plate.
Yeah.
100%. There's also the have tos that I look at where it's like, is this actually necessary? Like, correct me if
Mm.
I'm wrong, but like, just based on what we've talked about, it sounds like this isn't even necessary. And they kind of look and they're like, no, it's not. And I was like, okay, let's drop it, right? Let's
Mm.
actually drop it. And so there's these dynamics of when we pay attention to that language, find out if you can delegate it. Find out if you can get rid of it. And if you
Mm.
can't get rid of it, you are most likely going to have to push through. There's questions that you can ask yourself to like help you get to the other side, or sometimes you just have to push through if there's nothing else you can do.
Mm.
And then the other question too to ask yourself is that something that you are doing on a daily basis? What have you structured your life in what way that you're actually doing things on a daily basis that aren't fulfilling you, that aren't making you
Mm.
feel alive and inspired? And how can you even long term create a plan to step out of that role and step into things that you love? Because here's
Yeah.
the cool thing, like I know you're not subordinating when you're focused on the things that you love, right?
Mm.
Like you'll automatically do it and you'll just be like, I love doing this, I can't wait to do this, I want to do more of this. Like you really have a desire to do it, right? And
Mm.
I'm watching you, no matter what's going on, even if it's a rough day, engaging in it anyways, whether large or small. And how do you give yourself permission to do more of that?
Mm.
How can you actually do more of that? And it's like, how do you structure your life? And if it doesn't happen today or tomorrow, can you put together a plan for a year or 5 years or 10 years? And sometimes people are like, oh, such a long time. But it's
Mm.
like, what's the cost? You can live your whole life for the next, until you die, living by shoulds and miserable on your day-to-day tasks. Or you can invest the time now to do the hard work that in
Mm.
10 years you say, I actually am waking up every day doing what I love.
Yeah.
It may not take that long, but what if it did? What would that be worth to you? To actually feel that, like actually
Mm.
feel and experience that and not have to do shoulds. And knowing every step of the way, every year, every day you invest in it, every week, every month, every year, every 5 years, every 10 years, it just starts to increase. It increases in the probability and the experience of you having that. So pay attention to your shoulds. It's
Mm.
really important because we want to shift out of those.
Yeah, no,
That's going to
that's
make you
really,
miserable. Yeah.
yeah. I think that's really insightful. We do, as you said, like you almost put unnecessary expectations on yourself because you feel like you have to show up for, X, Y, and Z. I'm curious, what about the shoulds and needs and have tos and got tos for stuff that actually does need to happen? It's just
Mhm.
uncomfortable, but it does actually need to happen, and you
Yeah.
can't give it to someone else to do, but you actually have to do it.
Yeah.
What
And
would you
like,
say to
what's a
that?
good example? Like, what's a good example of that one?
Okay, well, let's talk about maybe
Mhm.
what you just shared, like, in 10 years' time. If you put the hard work in now, 10 years' time, you'll be in a place where you're looking back, you're like, I'm so glad I did it.
Yeah.
That could be one, or even really simple, like, I really need to go for a run. I
Yeah.
really should go for a run. I really
Yeah.
don't want to. But,
Great.
you get out there and you're so glad you did. Or, when it's done, you're glad you did. But the actual
Yeah.
getting out there, that's really hard. No one else is going to run that for you.
No.
But I mean, that's just a
No.
small example, but you know what I mean.
No, it's a really good example because I actually like that was one thing that was so important to me because the fitness was so important. And I was doing the same thing. I was like, I should run. I should be running. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I realized I didn't like running. I liked the class I used to take when I was in LA right before I moved to Australia that included running. And so then I disconnected from running and I started doing yoga. Ironically, the yoga that I wound up finding, the teacher, it wasn't like power yoga. It was just like really in depth. The guy did like 2 hour classes. It was
Oh,
crazy.
wow.
It was the best. It was the best. I got in better shape than I've ever been in before. So ironically, like by me just being like, I don't want to run, but what was it about the running that was so fulfilling before? And I was like, it wasn't the running, it was the class. And I really liked the class. So then I found a different class that was that fulfilling. And ironically, I got in better shape than I ever had gotten in before. And then when I came back to Los Angeles, that class, they're great, by the way. It's just a little hard on my body now. I just got older and I just it's what it is. It's so hard. I still love those classes and I sneak them in every now and then. They're so fun. Barry's Boot Camp, by the way, they'll get a little bit of out there. I love them.
Yeah.
They're so fun. But it's a little hard on my body to do as often. I was doing like 5 days a week before. So when I came home, I was like, okay, my body says no to that now, right? It wants to do more yoga. So I was doing more yoga, but I felt like I wanted something a little bit more active. And I just kept trying and trying things until I discovered rollerblading. And I am
Nice.
obsessed with rollerblading. And so I love rollerblading on the Santa Monica Boardwalk. I love it so much. I put them on, doesn't matter like what the weather is except for rain because you'll slip and fall. But yeah, it doesn't matter. And I just absolutely loved it. And I would listen to music and podcasts, and it was just so enjoyable. And so when it's like, I have to do something, it's like, well, I have to run, but I really just want to exercise because it makes me feel better. And it's like, well, what can I do outside of that? How can I go into my own self-discovery mode and find what works for me? Right. And it's like the best example, by the way. That was a great example because I know so many people are like thinking about that stuff. They're like, yeah, but I want to lose weight or I want to get in shape, but I have to run. You don't have to run. Why don't you find what you love? If you like doing it in your house, do something in your house. I have a friend who she just loves walking, but she doesn't actually really like to go outside much. And so she just has a walking desk and she puts her computer on it and she works. That's it. She just works on her computer the whole time. And then after she came up with that solution, I was like, are you walking now? She's like, all the time. I love it. Right. Because she just wants to work. She loves working
Yeah.
so much, but she wanted to get in shape. And so it's like, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing right here. It's like, what do you love? What's your favorite thing? One of my friends is obsessed with surfing, obsessed. So he actually built a whole business that would give him the opportunity to surf at the most optimal times.
Amazing.
Like, hysterically enough. That's his exercise. You will
Love
not
it.
find him running either. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
when we're shooting us, it's like, what are alternative options that I can find that work for me? And it's kind of fun. It's like a self-discovery. You'll find that it'll be interesting to see what inspires you, what fulfills you, and then you just keep filling your life with more of that. The more you know yourself, the more that you can fill your day to day with what you love, and that even helps that 10-year plan we talk about. 1 year,
Yeah.
5 year, 10 year, yeah,
Yeah.
lifetime plan. We'll call it a lifetime plan now.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I think actually listening to you talk, it's kind of coming back to what you were saying about being subordinate to your environment, right? So like if in your environment, the thing to do to get fit or to lose weight or whatever is to run, then you feel like that's what you have to do. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And just go find your own thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
One of my friends, she does cardio drumming, by the way. Yeah. Never
what is
heard of it
cardio
before.
drumming?
It's drumming mixed with cardio. She's obsessed. It's so funny. I wouldn't be into it. I'd like look and I'm like, there's no way I'm not gonna like that. But like she loves it so much. It fills her with so much like life and like she's so alive. And so when I say just find what you love, like there's people out there doing something cool and weird and wacky like for everyone. You just go do you
Fine.
and then you
Yeah.
don't have to run. Yeah, find your cardio drumming. Yeah.
I'm going to Google that later because I've written
Do
that
it.
one down.
She's awesome. Yeah.
No, that's cool. So, I want to talk about the ripple effect. So it was really clear to me that, you know, when you moved to Australia, you were in a place of confusion. You found a great coach who helped you find that clarity that you needed. And you enjoyed that process so much that you wanted to go out and do the same. And so you started your own coaching business. I'd love for you to share with us any experience that you've had where you have seen a business unlock a major mind shift because of the process they've gone through.
Yeah, so there's a couple that come to mind. Interesting. One is about like the authenticity component. I was working with an individual who is actually selling like dietary supplements, right? Like dietary and health and nutrition supplements. Ironically, though, she doesn't have a value on being thin and fit. It's just not important to her. It's not part of her background or culture, which, you know, I'm from LA, so it's like, of course, that's like culturally, that's like the culture there. But you travel around the world and most people don't really care. Like they look at some of the people in LA and they're like, you're too thin, you look sick. And you're like, thanks, okay. I haven't heard that before. Appreciate that. So she's just like a normal human, just living like normally, but her brain had associated the only way to get this business going, and she wouldn't be able to do it because she can't go on social media and share. She's like, even though the product works, she's like, I'm not using it because I don't care. And she's like, so how am I going to sell a product to people when I look the way I look? And I was like, girl, like, let's sort out that mindset thing. So we actually sorted out the mindset component, like to start, but then just understanding the business transition was it wasn't her. It was just hiring influencers. She got so stuck on the should that that needed to be her. She couldn't even see that it was just hiring influencers, like to do that for her. She's the businesswoman. She's the businesswoman. She wants to look the way she looks. She doesn't care about that stuff. It's not good or bad. It's just who she is, right? But there are influencers out there who really value that, who spend the majority of their time and energy and their day focusing on staying fit and trim. Like that's their life. They love that. That's purposeful. So instead of her trying to beat herself up and be someone else, it's like, okay, well, let's just get those people. And then the business launches in that way, in a sense. And all of a sudden a marketing dynamic that hadn't existed and had come to a standstill, like launched exponentially, right? So that was really helpful for her business, really helpful for her company.
Yeah.
Another example, like I can think of, is that individual I mentioned who had the trauma from the past, right? So when we worked through the trauma, it was like, okay, well, how do I get this to grow? How do I get the people around me to grow? How do I get the teams to grow? And a lot of it was team building dynamics. Like it was a huge component of team building dynamics. But the way that that company had structured itself and the way they set it up is it was like really great base plus commissions, right? So it's kind of like a little bit like a pyramid dynamic, but not really, like, because you still got a great base. And it was interesting because what I started to see, because he's so interested in empowering people to build financial independence, that the company is built in a way that like you can create 7 figures and not be an executive. Like that's amazing. It just depends on the level of work you're willing to put in, and the way that you can raise up in that company is also going to be exponential. Right now there's no limit because every time he hits a limit, he figures out a way on how to make another tier for like that person who wants to move up, and another tier and another tier. Yeah. It's really amazing. And so you see like these individuals, when they move out of like, this is what it's supposed to look like, this is what I want to create, and then utilizing those businesses as a vehicle, like they're getting what they want, and a lot of people get what they want as well. Like it's very cool. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing, Carly. This has been great. I've really enjoyed listening to your story. What I really liked about it is how you've used your own experience, like very personal experience and being able to walk that in so many ways with other businesses and being able to give back that way. I think it's really inspiring.
Yeah, thank you. This is a really inspiring conversation.
You're welcome. Carly, before we wrap up though, where can our listeners connect with you or learn more from you if they wanted to do that?
Yeah, they could head over to westcoastgrowthadvisors.com and connect with me there directly or social media channel, whatever they prefer.
Awesome. Thank you. And to those of you tuning in, all the links that Carly has mentioned will be in the show description. So from Carly and from me, bye for now, and I will see you next time.